Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Michelle Charlton. I'm from Skills Education. Now, you might be wondering, if you've been on one of our sessions before, why there's only one head on the screen. Melanie is here with us today. Melanie MacDonald is going to be talking to us about increasing student enrolments for your RTO using the LinkedIn platform. However, if you're like us and you woke up and courtesy of Microsoft, there's been a new download put on your computer, we suspect that's interfering with Melanie being able to access her camera. So I'll just let you know straight up that we won't be actually seeing Melanie today. But she is here and she is really looking forward to sharing with you some of her expertise around boosting enrolments for your RTO. And this is the final of her 4-part series on using various platforms and social media and big data to capture prospective students and convert those over to enrolments. Now, while everyone is getting settled, I know that for anyone who is in the waiting room, you might have seen the slides that explain how to use the technology that we've got today, but I'll just give you a brief run through. We will be using the chat window, so definitely if you've got any questions or comments, pop your messages into the chat. We've got some polls that are live, so you'll see those in the top right-hand corner of your screen. Move across the tabs and you'll see polls. And also, as the handout for today, Melanie has generously shared a copy of the slides for today's presentation. So you can access all of that, download the handout straight onto your computer. We are recording today's session, so anyone who is unable to join us live right now will be able to log into the VETR portal and access the recording. When the session is finished, you do get an auto-generated email just alerting you to that fact. And keep an eye out for that email too, because that's what triggers your PD record. There will be an email asking for feedback on the session. So whilst the feedback is anonymous and you can submit a blank form if you wish, we know that all of our Skills Ed presenters really value the input that you have to offer about what you've seen and heard. And if you could share that, they'd be most grateful. But importantly, that's what triggers your PD record. Big shout out at this juncture to the VETR team, because it is VETR that supplies the technology for the skills education sessions. And if you have been on one of our sessions before, you know that Skills Education is the network that supports presenters that support VET practitioners. So again, thanks for that. Now, all of that admin out of the way, over to what we're here for. As I said, this is the final in the 4-part series around using big data and social media platforms to increase your RTO's enrolments. And today we're looking at LinkedIn. A little bit of information about Melanie for you. Her business, Mana Social, is all about capturing this information and showing you how to use the technology to do exactly what we're going to be talking about. So once I hop off this section, I'll drop some of the links to be able to contact Melanie in the chat for you. Mana Social has helped hundreds of RTOs grow their business into the BRW top 100 list and the Queensland top 400. So they know what they're talking about, and it's exactly that combination of expertise that makes Melanie just the perfect person to share all of her expertise with us today. So I'll hand over to Melanie just now. We won't see her, but we'll definitely hear her. Welcome, Melanie.
Thank you, Michelle. And now the question is my camera really not working, or is it just after 4 sessions that I'm in peak self-isolation?
I was going to be truthful when I said that we wouldn't see her, but we would definitely hear her. Melanie, can you hear me okay?
Yes, can you not hear me?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, cool. Yeah, maybe my camera is working and maybe I've just been in self-isolation for too long and I don't feel like brushing my hair anymore. I'm not saying. Anyway, no, the camera something's malfunctioning to do with Windows updates, but I figured it's more important for you guys to see the slides than it is to see me anyway. So I thought today I would cover a strategy for RTOs who are mainly in the business to business space. So if you're training groups of employees or all of your students come from apprenticeship centres or something like that, a lot of the things that we've talked about in the previous sessions are more focused on the B2C, enroll an individual student rather than the groups. So running a Facebook ad to get the attention of an employer might not be the best strategy, depending on the demographic of the employer. There's pretty much a group that is not on Facebook but is more on LinkedIn, and that is probably men over 40. So for the men that are over 40 that are here, you're probably going, yeah, I'm not on Facebook. So LinkedIn is where you're going to find a lot more kind of corporate types, I guess, if you want to call it that. Now, in this situation, you're not going to be targeting individual students, you're targeting the decision maker for a group. You can use LinkedIn advertising to target individual students, in which case you'd follow the same kind of strategies that we've talked about in previous weeks. But today we're going to focus on the corporate group decision maker. So LinkedIn is a really good tool for B2B marketing, but the thing that we have to be really careful of is how do we attract those right people without seeming spammy? I think that's, from the people that I've talked to, that's most people's biggest frustration about LinkedIn as a user and concern as a marketer, is if you are like the rest of us, you've probably had one of those messages or multiple messages that's like, yes, hello, I was looking at your profile and I think we should contact, can I sell you my thing? And that is not how you use LinkedIn effectively. It doesn't work. It's annoying and it's going to damage your brand, if anything. So we're going to look today at, why and when you should use it. We're going to look at a combination of strategies. There are some organic strategies that you can use, as in don't pay anything, just take time. And then there are paid strategies, of course, like running ads. So I'll cover a little bit on each of those, how to do them. And then I've got a reasonably long list of things not to do and things to do and how to get started. So first of all, I guess it's that whole, what's LinkedIn for? So LinkedIn really, to me, the best way that I've always thought of to describe it is that it's social media for grown-ups. You might see my slide there where it's like, there's the LinkedIn version of yourself and then there's the reality version of yourself. LinkedIn is focused on business-related content. So one of the things you don't want to be doing on LinkedIn is posting, here's a picture of my breakfast and all that sort of thing. And that's why a lot of people like LinkedIn, because it is for grown-ups, it is business content, it has got good quality, usually interesting articles that you can actually learn something from or benefit your business or your career. Now, LinkedIn is much better at authentication than the other platforms. So, your dog can join Facebook and probably get away with it. Your dog can't join LinkedIn. LinkedIn is much better at making sure that you are who you say you are, and that if you say you work for a company, that you've got links to that company, like an email address from that company or whatever. Actually, there's just a quick tip while we're talking about authentication. If you are planning on outsourcing your personal profile, like someone to look after it and post for you, business page is different because you can add someone as an admin. But if you're going to give someone your personal profile and get them to log in as you and post content as you need to be super, super careful, because LinkedIn has got some pretty good security features in place that will actually look and go, gosh, this LinkedIn profile is being accessed from overseas from the same IP address as 10 other LinkedIn profiles. We're going to ban the lot of them. So you might find yourself getting banned if you outsource it. There are ways to manage that, to get around it, if you want to call it that, like make sure you've got a virtual private network running, but it is against LinkedIn's terms of service for someone other than you to manage your own profile. They're quite big on the fact that you're supposed to be you. You're not supposed to be someone pretending to be you. Now, it's quite similar to Facebook in the sense that it's got the same structure. So you have a personal profile, you have a business page, you can have groups, you can have ads. And most of you here today are probably in some of the RTO groups on LinkedIn, so you know what I'm talking about with groups. Now, as usual with any kind of marketing, the tactics that you use are going to depend on the strategy that you're trying to implement. So once again, always start with the strategy rather than get excited by a bright, shiny object. So don't even think about doing LinkedIn marketing unless it actually fits in with what you're trying to achieve, as in the audience that you're trying to target. So if you're a business to consumer RTO, for example, and most of your business is individual students enrolling in your course, then you might not actually even bother putting much energy into LinkedIn at all. You might concentrate on some of the other social platforms. So as I take you through the different tactics, I'll try and give you examples of how you might use this in an RTO, and then you can see if they fit into your marketing plan. But yeah, don't get too excited by bright, shiny objects. We all do it. So 2 main categories of tactics you can use. There's the paid stuff and the organic stuff. As a subset of the organic stuff, there is, I guess, outreach type of tactics. So where you're actually hunting people, so sending them messages, trying to get to talk to them, your traditional, what we used to do on the phone once upon a time, ring up training managers and say, can I come and see you? You can run those types of campaigns through LinkedIn, through messages, and you can do them well or you can do them badly, and I'll talk about the difference between the two. But you can also do organic strategies, so not ads, unpaid, where it's more of an attraction-based marketing. So if you're someone like me that really hates getting on the phone and calling people that I don't know, but I don't mind at all talking to people if they call me or if there's a time booked in for me to call them, I just don't like that pretty much cold calling. I just can't bring myself to do it. Then the attraction strategy works better for people like us, where we produce content and we put the content out there and people see that content and go, oh, they seem to know what they're doing, and make contact and talk to us. And that can be things like these types of training sessions as well, and posting videos on LinkedIn. So you can do organic strategies, which can be the really aggressive. I'd say that you can tell that that's something I don't like doing, but some people are great at it, and good on you. I admire you. I just couldn't do it. So you can either do that outreach stuff or you can do the attraction stuff. And I'll tell you a story later about someone who's really good at the outreach stuff. Or you can do paid stuff on LinkedIn. So you can run ads just like you would on any other social media, and just like you would on any other social media. For those of you that were here for the Facebook session a couple of weeks ago, you can run them with different campaign goals. So you can run them just to get more traffic to your site, or you can run them to get people to inquire, or whatever it is that you want, and different ad types as well. So let's start with some of the basics that are applicable regardless of whether it is paid or organic, and whether it's outreach or attraction. Some of these things we need to have in place before we start any of them. So first of all, your personal profile. Before you do anything on LinkedIn, before you spend any money on ads, before you run around writing, brilliant articles that people are going to love, make sure you've got some of the fundamentals in your personal profile right. And one of the things that people often get wrong, if that's the right word, is that they write their profile about themselves instead of writing it for the reader. So, people, it's like when you're writing a CV or something like that, people don't really care what job you did, they care what contribution you made in that job. So think about, with your personal profile, who do people think that you are if they visit it? If you just say RTO manager, it's like, well, that's exciting, but is that going to make a training manager want to talk to you? Think about writing, a short description of yourself that actually, without being too cheesy about it, but actually explains who you are and what you do, and gives you presence and gives you authority. I'll show you a couple of examples in a minute of ones that I think are quite good and explain why. Now, there's an opportunity for a headline, as you probably know, in your LinkedIn profile, and use that headline carefully. So I saw one yesterday that just said, looking for opportunities in mining. It's like, yeah, great, good on you. I don't care. So think about the what's in it for me thing. When with your headline, you might be looking for opportunities in mining, but the people who are looking for you, what are they looking for? So you might write something like, has run safety training for mines that reduced the accident rate by 32% over 12 months, or something that actually says what you've achieved and why they might want to talk to you. There's a summary section that's actually optional. So if you're doing anything with your personal profile, make sure you've switched that on so that A, you've written something, and B, people can see it. You can also add things like background and stuff like that, but the summary section is quite important, and I'll show you a couple of examples of that in a second. Now, a couple of things to make sure you do, and I've grabbed a couple of screenshots on how to do it, is make sure that your page, if you're going to use LinkedIn for marketing, make sure that your personal page is set to public so that people can actually find you. I think the default setting in LinkedIn is that it's set that only other LinkedIn users can find you. But you imagine if somebody, a training manager, is sitting there and they're doing a search for leadership training. You want to come up in their search. And if you set it up properly, and if you make sure that your content is set to searchable both inside LinkedIn and outside LinkedIn, then you'll actually show up on Google as well when someone is Googling. So it's a free way of getting some Google traffic without having to spend anything on Google ads. Let me just show you a couple of examples. So Tamara, most of you probably know, she's run some training here before. If you see in her little summary, she hasn't said, I have 20 years experience of RTOs or whatever. She's actually said what she does for people. So, taking RTOs from stuck to solutions simply. I'm all about the how. So as soon as you see that profile, you know what she does and who she does it for. It's not about her. It's about you as the client. So that's a good example of how to use that little summary section. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of other examples who have approached it in completely different ways, because there's one school of thought that says your profile should be all about, everything you can do for other people. And then there's another school of thought that says it should build authority to say how you're really good. So I'll show you one of each and show you that they can both actually work. These are not RTO ones. These are just people that I follow on LinkedIn. So Bernard Salt, sorry, that's really small, isn't it? Bernard Salt, as some of you might know, he writes a column in The Australian, I think. He's a KPMG, or he was a KPMG consultant, talks about demographics. He's the one that came up with the phrase about people being sea changes and tree changes and things like that. His profile, which you probably can't read, it's a bit tiny, in the about section, it's actually quite long. It goes longer than that, but it's very much about him and how good he is. So, he's published this and he's managing director of this and he's written this book and he's had these awards and it's all about him. That works for him because he is actually positioning himself as the expert. So if you are going to hire Bernard for something, you're going to get him to come and do a talk for you, or you're going to hire him to do some consultancy. You're going to hire him to write something for you. You want to know how good he is and how much he's achieved. So that profile is perfect for someone who is positioning themselves as an expert, as an industry expert in that way, where most of his clients are going to be the very serious corporates, or the big media. Some small business is not going to hire Bernard Salt. Now, let me show you another one that I follow. It's actually funny. He did have his full name in there, and then his company collapsed and he got a bit of flack in the media, and now he's just Josiah H instead of Josh, whatever his surname was. But if you look at his description, he's got doing over 5 million a year. I help drive growth using digital channels and data science. Forbes 30 under 30 in Asia. So he's thrown in an achievement, but he's also very clear about who he's talking to and what he's offering. So if you've got a business that's turning over more than 5 million, he's offering to help you grow it. And then when you read his about section, if you can read it, it's very much about what he can do for you. So his target is a different audience. It's not the sort of serious navy blue suit corporates that Bernard Salt's target is. It is the kind of tech startup, but actually making some money already so they can afford to pay him crowd. So when you're putting your personal profile together, the moral of this story is think about who it is that you're trying to talk to and write it in a way that suits them. You're not writing it for you, you're writing it for them. If we go back to Bernard for a second, if you're trying to appeal to the big, top 100 companies in Australia, then you're going to write a very serious profile about here are all the things that I have done. If you're trying to get to the tech startups, then it's going to be much more doing over 5 million. I can drive this, different language, different message. So most people who do good profiles actually end up getting a copywriter to help them do it. If you're a really good writer, do it yourself. But if it's not your strength, get someone to help you. Now, let's talk about just how to adjust a couple of the little technical things. If you go, see up the top here, the little strip that's at the top of your LinkedIn profile if you're on a computer, and you've got that little button that says me with the little down arrow. This is just how to make sure that people can actually find you on LinkedIn, and make sure you hop in and check this on yours because the default setting is not actually what you want it to be. So click that little down arrow and then you choose settings and privacy. And then you'll see the first thing on that list is edit your public profile. And if you just on the right there where I've circled the word change, just click on change. And that will take you to this second screen that I've got on the right hand side. And you want to make sure your profile's public visibility is turned on. And that also who can find you down the bottom there is public, all LinkedIn members on and off the network. And you can be found in the Google search. Now, some people go, oh, I don't want to be found in Google. Well, in that case, don't use LinkedIn for marketing because the whole point of it is to get found. So that's fine. If you want to keep it closed down and you keep it private, that's fine. It's just that if you're going to use it for a marketing tool, then you need to have it turned on and have it public. Make sense? Hopefully. By the way, we've got a reasonably smallish group today, so feel free to throw in any questions as we go if you want to. Okay, so that's the personal profile. Make sure it's written for your audience and make sure it's findable are the two key things there. Now, your business page, there are, if you don't have one already, I assume most of you do, there are some criteria that you have to meet to set one up. So that's one of the authentication things on LinkedIn. You can't just join and then start a business page without proving yourself. So you need to have a company email address. You can't set it up with a Gmail address or anything like that. You've got to show that you actually do belong to that company. You can't be absolutely brand new on LinkedIn, but you only have to have been there for a couple of weeks. So you just can't do it all same day. And you need to have some connections already on your personal page. So good little security things to make sure that people can't just pretend to be a business. Now, there are 4 different page types when you go to set it up. There's 3 different sizes of business, and then there's one at the 4th one is educational institution. If you choose educational institution, then when other people are putting up their CVs on LinkedIn, which is how most people use it, they can say where they studied. So if they did a diploma of leadership and management with you, then they can actually link to you on their profile and people go, oh, who did they study with? So it's a really nice way of getting some backlinks for search engine optimization and also to get some more traffic to your business page. So make sure you choose educational institution. And if you've got yourself set up as a business, I would go in and change it because it just gives all your students the opportunity to link to you. Make sure you use a professional banner. Don't look at our business one because I stuck a photo of an avocado up there. I was doing an experiment. Anyway, ignore that. But make sure your banner looks professional and represents your business appropriately. And you can add up to 3 hashtags in the description of your business page. And I presume you all know what hashtags are. And those hashtags will make you findable in Google. So if you are, for example, one of the most, I think, challenging and competitive things to market to these corporate type groups are things like leadership courses and business courses, that sort of the BSB package type stuff. There's a lot of people doing it and you have to be able to make sure that you stand out. If you're doing anything like that that's super competitive, then make sure you have use the 3 hashtags that you can have in your business page. And you'll probably do things like hashtag leadership program, hashtag management training, whatever the phrases are that your people are going to look for. Maybe you're specializing in a particular niche. So one of your hashtags might be hashtag mining management or something like that. But use them because that makes you searchable. If someone's on Google, they're looking for a thing, then they've got a chance of actually finding you on LinkedIn. And also make sure that you link the company page to your personal page by, in your personal profile, when you do the employment section and it says, where are you currently working? Don't just type in the name, but actually link to the company, if that makes sense. Okay, let's talk about how to use this company page. So for those of us that are the farmers, not the hunters, like the ones who want people to come to us, we don't want to be having to run around call people, then your LinkedIn organic strategy, and we're talking here about how to do the free stuff on LinkedIn that takes time rather than spends money. Your strategy is going to have some content. And the reason that you're writing content is to attract people, to have an attraction strategy where people read your stuff and go, wow, he's actually quite smart and quite interesting. I need to get him to come and talk to our company about whether they can run a program for us. Remember, the purpose of it is not just to position yourself as a genius in this thing, but to position your program as something they might want to do. So say, for example, you do, back in the olden days, my first RTO used to run a quality assurance course. It's now called the Diploma of Quality Auditing, but it was a training. It wasn't a training package course in those days. It was an accredited course. And so if I was going to use LinkedIn for this, then I would write an article probably about something like why people are doing QA wrong, or how to get the best out of an audit, or something that maybe not controversial exactly, but something that's expressing an opinion that actually says, you're doing it all wrong, and this is what I think you should do. Now, half the people are going to read that and disagree with me and go, well, she doesn't know what she's talking about. The other half are going to read it and go, yes, that's what I've been saying for ages. I need to talk to her and get her to come and train my QA people because she's actually going to do what I want. You see that a bit in the RTO space on some of the people that are like RTO consultants and things like that. And they're posting pretty controversial stuff. I mean, it's not hard to do in RTO land, is it? But some people expressing some very strong opinions about ASQA and things like that. And that is probably a combination of, yes, they do have those opinions, but also they've realized that is going to build their tribe, that people are going to go, yeah, I agree, I'm with you. So you can do short or long content, really. There's two ways of doing it. The first one is to do posts. So a post is just like a post that you do in Facebook or anything like that. It's a short piece of content that shows up in people's timelines. Now, some things to think about if you're writing a post, though. Well, the first one is that it's not a post about what you had for breakfast or that you've got your cat in the office or anything else. It needs a hook. So the very first line of the post, which is what they're going to see when they're scrolling down, and remember they are there for work, needs some kind of a hook. So either a question or a headline that's going to attract their attention. So it could be something like, people are doing quality assurance auditing all wrong, like I just said, something like that. Something that's going to make them go, hey, what? And they'll stop and read it. Then the actual content needs to be interesting. Now, quite a good way of doing it if you're doing a short post, is to write a really short post, just 3 or 4 lines, but have the main article sitting on your website. So, write your perspective and then say, to read our article about what to do about this or whatever, click here. What that does is 2 things. It's really good for SEO for your website, as in it creates a backlink, a legitimate backlink, which means that Google thinks, oh, this site's got some popularity. People are coming from credible places like LinkedIn. So it gives you a bit of SEO, and it's also good then if you want to retarget those people who've visited your website or who've clicked on your post. So for those of you that have been here in previous week, we've talked about putting tracking code on your website so that anybody who visits you can drop content in their feed and whatever social media they're on. You can do that in LinkedIn, you can do that in Facebook, you can do that just using the Google Display Network, which is just ads in, pretty much any website there is almost. So, and then on that post, add a couple of hashtags, somewhere between 1 and 3. Don't go crazy. It's really annoying when you see these things that are like, half a wall of hashtags, but between 1 and 3 hashtags to make your post findable. And those hashtags are specifically about the content of the post. So if you wrote a post about quality assurance auditing, then your hashtag might be hashtag QA auditing, whatever. Now you can boost that post, which I'm going to talk about when I talk about the paid ad stuff. But just like in Facebook, you can take that post and you can turn it into an ad. To do that, you basically need to publish it to your company page, because you need to run ads from a company page. I'll come back to that and I'll tell you a bit more about how to do that. Now, articles. Here's something to think about in terms of articles. You are better off, and I put thought leader there. We used to laugh in our RTO. We used to be rather mocking about the phrase thought leader, and we used to run around joking that we were going to become thought leaders when it first came in. But actually, it's kind of grown on me, I'm embarrassed to admit. And you really if you're going to use an article, you need to use it to position yourself as a thought leader, which I guess is just a fancy word for expert, isn't it, really? It's somebody who has actually put out some content that has got something interesting or new in it. So don't do those kind of listicle articles like my top 10 tips for a new supervisor. So those are really common. Actually, Rebecca just asked, are we posting content from our personal page or our business page? Both. Post some from your personal page, but then publish it to your company page probably as well. From your personal page, that's going to position you as an expert. From your company page, if you want to turn it into an ad, then you're going to need to do it from there. I'll show you in a second a little bit more about how to do it from the company page. So try and have a bit of a mixture of some things from your personal page and some things from your company page, because LinkedIn is a place where companies build reputations, but so do individuals. And I've got something else I want to say about that a bit later. Now, this whole thought leader article thing, don't write little meaningless articles that are pieces of content that someone could just Google and get them from anywhere. If you're going to write an article on LinkedIn, try to write something that actually adds something to the conversation. So either something from your experience that is really worth discussing, or something from some research that you've done, but make sure it's a decent quality article. Otherwise, it's just clutter. One of the things that I've seen people do quite effectively is write one article, one major, kind of pretty long 5,000 word article, which is almost like the whole white paper thing. Write a serious article about a topic that will position you as that thought leader, that people go, wow, this organization's really switched on about this. And then you can write shorter posts and shorter articles to support it. So say if we take the quality assurance audit course example that I was doing, if we were an RTO doing the diploma of quality auditing, then we might write one major article about the future of auditing and what we see as where audits are going, what industries should have more audits, what we think are the key skills that an auditor should have, what's been going wrong with audits, and what we've seen has been a problem. So almost the whole story of everything we think about audits that is useful for people. Then you can take that article and you can take pieces out of it and write small posts about it. So the section in the article about the industries that need more auditing, you might in the future write a small post that says, in our article we mentioned that we thought there were going to be more audits in the aged care sector. As you've probably seen today in the newspaper, here's this article from the Australian that talks about the fact they're going to increase the audit frequency or something. So you can take topical stuff and link it back to your main article. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So you don't, in terms of the volume of work that you're setting yourself up to do, you don't have to write a whole lot of enormous articles. One really good article and then shorter posts to actually support it and bring it up to date are fine. The other thing that's working pretty well in content at the moment in LinkedIn is, since LinkedIn a year or so ago started allowing people to post video content gets quite a lot of traffic. LinkedIn's trying to encourage video. There's this sort of war to the death in video between, Facebook, Google, whatever. And so LinkedIn's trying to jump in there and make sure that they've got plenty of video content as well. So if you're not a writer, if you're a talker, put together a video, or do something like this session that we're doing, run a training session for an hour and then take that video and post it on your LinkedIn. That can be a really good way of having some content without having to double up on the workload. Now, if you don't know what to write about, LinkedIn will actually help you figure that out. Let me show you. So if you go to your business page, you will see up the top there, see we've got home, content, analytics and activity. So this is, I've gone into our actual business page and I'm an admin of that page. So it's giving me the admin view. If you click on content and you want some content ideas, then LinkedIn will actually tell you. So see down the left there, I've got the 3 buttons and I've circled page followers. You can actually say, what content are people interested in right now? What are people engaging with? So you can ask what the whole of LinkedIn is engaging with, or what just people who follow my business page are engaging with, or what employees are engaging with. So if you're a big company, then some companies write content for their employees, obviously. Most of us are not in that in that category. So in this case, because you have to have 300 page followers for this to work, and we don't have 300. So I've said I want all inbox members who are interested in marketing and advertising. And then LinkedIn has basically come up with the right-hand side, these buttons, society and culture, social media, and said, these are the topics that are trending. And then these are the specific articles that are getting a lot of conversation and a lot of engagement. So if you're looking for some inspiration for what to write about, you don't have to make it up. You can actually go and say, what are people reading at the moment on LinkedIn? What are they commenting on? LinkedIn will tell you, and then write something about that. Write your own version of something to do with that topic. Okay, the other part of LinkedIn, which is one of the fundamentals, is this issue of groups. So LinkedIn groups, most of you are probably in some, so you would know how they work. Anybody can set up any LinkedIn member can set up a LinkedIn group. So for your groups, you can have two different strategies. Your strategy can be about starting a group, or your strategy can be about joining a group. Starting a group, for those of you that have done it, that can be a bit of work, especially if you want to keep a little bit of control of that group and actually use it to promote your own stuff eventually. You've got to walk that fine line between creating a community of practice where people can come in and chat, and also reminding them that you are there and that you've actually got something that you might want them to buy. So if you say, for example, say you've got the diploma and advanced diploma of leadership and management, competitive space, like we said, you might set up a group for people, leaders and managers in Australia. I would suggest in that one, you probably want to niche your group a bit more. So you might make your group managers or new managers in a particular industry. It might be emerging leaders in banking and finance or something like that. You can imagine that a group like that, people are going to see it and go, oh, I'm one of those, and join, whereas just a generic management group is going to be pretty hard to sort of stand out amongst everything else. So you might actually, if you're doing something in leadership and management, you might pick, we have an RTO that we work with who do leadership and management, and they also, the rest of their courses are sort of civil construction, project management, building management, that sort of stuff. So if they were going to do a LinkedIn group for leadership and management, they would do, emerging leaders. They might not call it that because builders probably don't call it that. They might call it new supervisors in construction. And then if someone's a new supervisor in construction, they're going to join that group. And then in that group, they would seed it with little messages here and there about, their course. And you do that subtly. You don't do that spammy, buy my thing, buy my thing. You do it in a way of saying, here's an article about somebody who did the course with us, and, a profile of what happened, their successful promotion that they got or something like that. So you can, if you start a group, some things just to make sure that you do. It's optional whether you do some ground rules or not. You might want to decide, do you want other people, offering their services for sale in your group, or do you want to ban that and just have it a group where people share information? You might say in your group it's only for your target audience, and you just don't want other randoms joining in. Make sure that you set the settings to allow members to invite others if you want your group to grow. Don't leave it on that you're the only person that can invite them. Then when you set up your group, set up a welcome post, and then send invitations out to people to join your group with a little bit of a covering note, inviting them to join it and possibly saying why, but not in too much, not begging them, just offering. Now, if you can't be bothered doing all that, then you can actually use LinkedIn for marketing just by joining groups. Find the groups that are relevant to your industry or your students' industry in this case, and contribute. Don't pitch. Don't be one of those people that goes in and posts, you can do this course with us. Like every time someone posts anything like, oh, I'm having a problem with my employee, they keep on coming in late, what should I do? Don't go in and go, you can do a diploma of leadership and management with us, only $2 this week. Go and answer their question, solve their problem, give them some advice, and then they go, oh, who is that person? That's why you need to have your personal profile and everything set up first, because what you want to be doing is answering questions in a way that they go, who's this person? They seem to know their stuff. And then they'll come and LinkedIn stalk you and read your profile. So it needs to be, that chain needs to be unbroken, that you write a comment, they click on your profile, they go, oh, she's a trainer for this training company, I wouldn't mind learning more from her. And then they go to the company profile. So contribute, don't pitch, don't try and sell stuff in groups. It's just annoying. And on that same note, show your expertise. Don't tell them that you're an expert. Don't just go, yeah, I'm really good at this and I know this. Just answer questions, solve problems. That's the best way of demonstrating your expertise. And when you've been in the group for a while and you've got to know people virtually and you've been communicating with them, send them connection requests, but don't spam them. Don't join the group and then try and connect with everybody on the first day. Just, that could probably all be summarized by saying, don't be annoying, couldn't it really? Now, connection requests. I've got an interesting story I want to tell you about this. So this is for the hunters, the people that actually don't mind going out, reaching out to strangers and going, hey, I've got a thing. Can I come and talk to you about our course, our program? So you might be trying to contact all the apprenticeship centres or something and get a meeting with them. Or those ones are probably a bit easier or you might try and be getting HR managers and learning and development managers in big companies. They get contacted all the time. People are always trying to talk to them. So there are two schools of thought about how to do a connection request. One says you just hit connect and use the default request, the one that says, would you like to be my contact, whatever, that everybody recognizes it as it's the LinkedIn default. The other one is that you explain to them why you're connecting. Let me tell you the pros and cons of each. I think if you're going to explain why you are connecting, then you want to make sure that you're not doing it from a place of pleading. It's not, I've seen your profile and I'd really like to come and do some work for you and can I please come and see you? Like, that's just, you want to, if you're going to explain why you're connecting, you need to come from a place of that authority as well, of like, hey, I've got some expertise in this, you might want to have a look at it. Or the other way of doing it, probably the more useful way of doing it, is saying, I noticed that you commented on such and such. I've been doing some work on this and we've found whatever answer. So, I noticed that you commented on, the lack of leadership development for staff in building and construction. I'd be interested to connect with you and continue this conversation or something like that. Now, that's only going to work if there's something when they look at your profile that, some people just connect and accept all the connections. But if you actually want someone to start a conversation with you, the chances are they're going to look at your profile and they've got to be able to see, yeah, I want to meet this person, or no, I don't. Let me tell you an example of somebody that I know and how they did it. It's quite funny and quite clever. So a couple of years ago, I was in an online copywriters group. I was interested in the science of writing copy, like writing in a way that actually makes people want to do business with you. I've always liked writing, wrote a couple of books in my past life, but I was interested in studying how do you write in a way that actually persuades, motivates, that sort of thing. So I joined this online forum for copywriters, and there was a guy in the forum who I got chatting to quite a bit who had a really interesting story. And his story was that American guy, and he had been a finance director for a congressman in the American government. And a finance director, interesting, I didn't really know this, a finance director is basically a really good salesperson, cold caller. Their job is to get out there and hustle and get money for their politician. So they have to be not afraid of the phone, not afraid of being cheeky, asking for things. He was really good at this. He'd done very well. Anyway, then to cut this part of the story short, he got arrested by the FBI for campaign fraud. Basically, his congressman had taken bribes from, I think it was the cigarette industry, about some legislation. And this guy, Rob, was effectively the bagman who had carried the money from the cigarette company to his congressman. He then was stubborn and wouldn't cooperate with them, and his colleagues ended up wearing a wire. It's like a movie, the crazy story. This guy's only in his 30s. Anyway, he ended up in jail, federal prison, for 3 years. And when he came out, of course, he had nothing. He came out in 2017, end of 2017. He had no friends. Family disowned him, no job, no money. He just had absolutely nothing. And he had no LinkedIn profile, of course. What do you put on there? Oh, yeah, I did this and then I went to jail for 3 years. So he was sitting there thinking about what he would do, but he was a really good salesman. and he hopped on LinkedIn and he thought he would like to learn to write sales copy, because he figured he couldn't do any kind of face-to-face selling anymore because of his history. Nobody would hire him, but perhaps he could write sales letters because he was still good at selling, and then they wouldn't have his face on them. So he got on LinkedIn and he started looking at the sort of people that would hire sales copywriters, so sort of directors of marketing for some of these companies. He then did that, then went away. Then he came back the next day, and you know how LinkedIn, you can see if someone's looked at your profile. So LinkedIn will say to you, 5 people looked at your profile, and it will tell you who they are. So he came back a day or two later and saw that a number of those people whose profiles he'd looked at had looked at him. And that's what we do. I don't know about you, but I do that. If someone looks at me, I go and have a look to see who they were. And then, being the crafty, clever salesman that he was, he went, I can get their attention. So he played this looky game with people. He went and quickly created himself a LinkedIn profile that explained what he was good at. And then he went back and clicked on all the people that he wanted to potentially employ him. Then a bunch of them came back and clicked on him, and they sort of went looky backwards and forwards. And then he sent them a connection request. And because of the kind of person that he is, he didn't write anything in the connection request about why you should talk to me or anything. He was a bit arrogant for that, and he was positioning himself as, I'm an expert, I don't have to beg you to talk to me. He just sent them the default connection request, and a bunch of them accepted it because they've looked at him going, he looks interesting, and he's looking at me and I'm looking at him and he's looking back. Isn't there an ad about that? Anyway, and so then he sent them a connection request. Some of them accepted, and then he sent them a follow-up message to the connection request saying, hey, I write sales copy, like if it was a finance company. I write sales copy for finance companies. If you've got any overflow, hit me up. And his way of describing it is, it was like the bar stool example here. He said his example was, if you're in a bar and you see someone sitting at the bar and they are, I prefer to use the dinner party example, but this was hers. If you see someone sitting at the bar and you go, hey, that's the director of learning and development for BHP, I really want to talk to them. You wouldn't walk up to them and say, hi, my name is Melanie MacDonald and I have 20 years experience of doing this. I feel that it would probably be appropriate. Like, they'd just turn their back and go back to their beer. And so he wrote his connection requests in the same way. He said if he saw that person at the bar, he would have gone, oh, hey, you're from this finance company. I write sales copy for finance companies. Here's my card. Hit me up if you've got any overflow and you need some help. So you need to do it in your own voice. But the big lesson that I got from him, and it has served me so well in the couple of years since I heard him explaining that, was that when you are making contact with someone on LinkedIn, you need to speak to them the same way that you would if you accidentally ran into them at an event or out socially. So you're not sending them a big long pitch in your connection request. You're just going, oh, hey, you're the director of this. I do this. Perhaps we should chat. Whatever your version is of that you should do. Anyway, the moral of that story is not that you should take bribes for politicians and go to jail, but he was very, very clever at that LinkedIn strategy. Now, that was a long story. Moving on to how to find these people to connect with. That's probably quite important. So LinkedIn has some paid products like Sales Navigator and things like that, but you can also just use search to find your leads and not have to pay for it at all. I did a couple of screenshots quickly just to show you how to do that. So once again, you go into your LinkedIn. This is just your personal profile, not your business one. And when you click in the search box on the top left, it will come up with some options. What do you want to search for? People, companies, whatever. Click on people and you will get a screen that looks like this. So then see across to the right where I've circled all filters. If you click on all filters, this is how you basically say you might want to find learning and development managers in a particular industry or something like that. Click on all filters and then that will take you to this page. And there's more if you scroll down, but obviously we can't on this. So you might say, okay, I want Australia, obviously, and I want to find people who work for Queensland Health in human resources. So you don't have to search for a particular company, but in this case, say I wanted to talk to all the HR people in Queensland Health, or you type in whatever the company is that you want, and then you can tick it and you can select it. Or you might just choose an industry. So you might not tick anything in companies, and you might just say, I want to talk to people in mining. Then if you scroll further down in that page, you can find people by interests and by what schools they went to and a whole bunch of other things. But you can basically just do a search and just pull up all the whatever managers in whatever industry you want, and then send them connection requests. Pretty easy, doesn't cost anything, nothing to lose by talking to them. And as long as you're putting out some good content, then you send them a connection request and they're going to come to your page and go, oh yeah, she looks interesting. I will communicate with them. Okay, now just quickly to spend our last few minutes, I just want to show you some stuff on paid ads. So paid ads, for those of you that are familiar now with the Facebook Business Manager, the layout is almost exactly the same. It's interesting, actually, they pretty much copied it, I think. And there are multiple ad types. So you can run traffic ads, which is just trying to get people to your website. You can run a video ad, so take your video content, turn it into an ad. You can do messaging ads, which are kind of interesting. That's basically where when they click on it, it takes them to almost a connection request. Or you can do lead ads where they click on it. This is relatively new in LinkedIn. You can do a lead ad where you don't even need to send them to your website. So if you're embarrassed by your website, then it's lead ad is like a little mini landing page where they click that they're interested in your thing, and then effectively they fill out a form and then you contact them. Now, one important thing with this though, you don't have to make it ad-like. You can take an existing post that you've done that's had good traction, and you can actually create your ad from that. I'll show you what I mean. So here are a couple of screenshots of how to find it. So see up in the top there where I've put the green loop. So you go to your profile and you click on work, and you'll get a drop-down menu. If you select advertise, and then you basically just follow the steps until you get to this section, which is to create a campaign. This is exactly like it would be if you were doing it in Facebook. You first of all decide what's the objective of your campaign. Do you want visitors? Do you want people to comment? Do you want them to fill out a form? What do you want them to do? And you click on that. And then you create your target audience exactly the same as you would in a Facebook ad. So you can say, I want people who work for these companies, or I want people in this job or with this qualification or whatever. Or you can upload an audience that you've already got and do a clone of them. So just like you can with the data matching in Facebook, you can do the same sort of data matching in LinkedIn. Doesn't cost you anything to set this up. You just pay for the ads. But this is the thing I wanted to show you. Once you've set up your audience, you can then decide who to show it to. So you can do the usual, put a picture and put some words, or see that piece I've circled where it says browse existing content. If you've had a post that has been popular and people have commented and they've liked it, rather than making an ad as such, you can actually just take that post and specifically show it to the people that you want to show it to. So say you wrote a really good article, say you do workplace health and safety training, and you'd written a really good article about accident investigation or something, and people had commented and they'd liked it, and you had a bit of social proof. In other words, you had some evidence that people had liked it. Rather than making an ad, I would just take that post and show it to all the other safety managers around the country. Doesn't cost you very much because you're narrowing your audience to the people that you want to show it to. When they see it, it looks like a post, not an ad, and it's got comments on it, it's got likes, it's got social proof, and they're going to engage with it just like everybody else would. I'll show you an example. So I found this one. I was looking the other day for people that are doing some posts. Sarah, I don't know her, but she does quite a few posts. She's got actually in her description, it's quite good. It's clear that what she is, course creation specialist. So, if you want a course created, you talk to her. And she had done an interview and put together an article about training provider survival, which is pretty topical at the moment. Now, if she posted that to her personal page and then published it to her business page, she might have had a whole bunch of comments and likes and things. So you could basically choose that and make that an ad. It will just look exactly like that. Doesn't look like an advertisement, just looks like a post, but you're showing it to the people that you want to show it to. Does that make sense? Now, a couple of other things I just wanted to tell you that are unique to LinkedIn ads. If you do decide to make an ad from scratch, once you put in your URL, so in this case, I've put in our website, don't look at it. We're redoing it. LinkedIn will automatically fill in the content with default stuff that it's dragged from your website. So it's dragged that strange photo off our website. It's dragged the description from there. The headline, it's taken our page description, so it's just called home. Be careful that you don't just run your ad with whatever it's pulled from the site, unless it's what you want. So go in and overwrite that stuff and write what you actually want to say. Otherwise, you're going to end up running an ad to your site, which looks kind of weird like that one. A couple of other things to look out for that I didn't put on the slide, but just for you to remember. If you're going to do a video ad, it asks you if you want to cap the CPV. CPV means cost per view. And yes, you do want to cap it. Otherwise, you might accidentally end up paying like $40 for each person who watches it or something. So they will give you a recommendation to say, they recommend, say, 25 cents per view. Cap it just above that. Cap it at 30 cents or something so that you don't end up accidentally blowing out your budget. The other thing to be aware of, and this is the same with Facebook ads as it is for LinkedIn ads, is that what you choose for your objective for the ads right at the start, if you choose that you want traffic or you want engagement or whatever, that is going to determine what type of ad you can run. So if you want to run a messenger ad, then I'd suggest that you use lead generation as your objective, because that allows you to run a messenger ad. It allows you to send a direct message to them with some merge fields. But be careful with that. It can be a bit spammy. Okay, I've got a whole bunch of do's and don'ts for you that I just want to quickly go through in our last 2 minutes. Things not to do. I already mentioned this one. Be careful outsourcing your personal profile. Make sure that they are using a virtual private network, and if they are going to do it, but it is a risk and it's against their terms of service for LinkedIn. Don't use automated connection tools. There's a bunch of people selling like little robot things that will go around sending connection requests for you. Don't use them. They're against the terms of service. A lot of them will argue, oh, yes, but mine's set up so that it's undetectable. It only sends one connection request every hour. They will detect it, or there's a risk that they'll detect it. It's not worth getting banned from LinkedIn. And actually, on that note, if you're just starting out, don't go nuts sending a whole lot of manual connection requests either, because LinkedIn will think you're a robot and risk banning you. They might send you to LinkedIn jail for a month. Don't use data scrapers. Like some people go in and there's software that you can use that can actually go into LinkedIn and scrape out people's email addresses and stuff like that so that you can start emailing them against LinkedIn terms of service, against your email platform's terms of service. Don't do it. Don't risk it. There's enough things you can do in LinkedIn without having to do the dodgy stuff. Don't be too salesy. LinkedIn is a professional platform for sharing knowledge and developing businesses and developing careers. So don't go in there and pitch. And I had written don't be cheesy, and then I thought, unless your target audience really like cheese, I suppose. But there's a Twitter account called The State of LinkedIn, which posts screenshots of people just being really annoying on LinkedIn. Like, today I got up at 4:30 a.m. and I did my workout. It's like, people don't care. Don't post that stuff. Okay, some quick things to do. 2 more screens and then we're done. Do keep an eye on your analytics. LinkedIn has good analytics for ads and also for organic traffic. So if you're posting an article, go in and look at the analytics, see who's read it and where they came from and where, all that sort of stuff. Make sure that you complete your personal profile and your business profile before you spend any money on ads. Make sure that your content builds your authority, whether you're commenting or whether you're creating. Write something intelligent. A couple of little statistics. If you've got an image in your post, it gets 98% more comments than just plain text. If you've got video in your post, it gets 75% more comments than plain text. And if you want to put up a video and you've got YouTube videos, just use those. They automatically play in LinkedIn. So just put the YouTube URL. You don't have to create a new video for LinkedIn. And the last ones, if you're trying to use LinkedIn, add your LinkedIn URL to your email signature. You'd be surprised how many people would actually click and connect with you that way. Personalize your LinkedIn URL. So, you'll have linkedin.com/Melanie MacDonald 12345XYZ or whatever. You can actually go in and edit that to being something that you want to say rather than what they've defaulted to. Encourage your employees to share your content. There's that that line that people used to say in training. It's like, what if I train them and they leave? And the response was, what if you don't train them and they stay? It's a little bit the same with LinkedIn. They go, but if my employees build a profile on LinkedIn, someone else will steal them. It's like, well, be a better employer and someone won't steal them. It's like, what if they build good connections and they leave? It's like, well, what if they don't build any connections and they stay? So encourage your employees to build their profiles, encourage them to share your business page content. People buy on LinkedIn based on the trust that you have built with your content. So build some trust with your content before you try and ever sell anything on LinkedIn. And the last thing on LinkedIn is the more views you get, the more views you get. So the algorithm will show popular posts more. So when you post, try and post something that's going to get some immediate engagement, and then LinkedIn will pick up on that and go, oh, we need to show that to more people. Okay, from here, if you want some help, get stuck, hop on Zoom with us, give me a call. I'll give you the number in a second. I'd be interested to know, this is the last one of this series, I'd be interested to know when you do your feedback later, if you would like any more training, and if so, in what or in what sort of format. So that's my number, that's my email, and back to you, Michelle, with about 30 seconds to go.
Plenty of time. Thanks, Melanie. I can see that Yvette's posted a question for you. She's saying, how does LinkedIn Premium add to your marketing strategy? So that's a good question. What can you tell us about that?
Okay, good question. So LinkedIn's got some premium products like Sales Navigator and things like that. It will allow you to get more detailed information about people. So you might want to go in and pull a list of emails, or do a search for, say, one example that I did once, which was you might say, I want to find people who also worked for, I worked for Glaxo, a pharmaceutical company, and I might be looking for training and development managers to do the Certificate 3 in pharmaceutical manufacturing. So you can use their paid products to go in and say, give me people who are learning and development managers in pharmaceuticals who worked for Glaxo between 1995 and 2000, and have then stayed in the industry the whole time. And so then I might send them a message going, hey, I used to work at Glaxo at the same time as you. Now I'm running an RTO. We're doing pharmaceutical manufacturing. Can I have a chat about what your needs are? So it allows you to do very, very specific targeting. I wouldn't start with it, though. I would start with the free product, because there's quite a lot you can do with that. And then once you really find your feed, then it's worth paying for it. Also, of course, for recruiting, LinkedIn job ads are pretty effective. We ran one a couple of years ago, actually, and we got some good quality applicants from that, much better than we did we tried Facebook, LinkedIn, Indeed, and Seek. And LinkedIn and Seek were by far the best.
Well, thanks for that, Melanie. It's one of those things. I know someone who trialed that premium function on LinkedIn and forgot to stop the trial.
Yes, and then they charge you for a whole year at the end of the 30 days.
Yeah.
That's how I know.
I forget how much she said it was, but it was a fair slug.
Yeah.
So if you do intend to maximize what it can do for you, I guess it's worth it. But if you were just doing it to see what's what, you might want to keep an eye on the calendar to cancel.
And I did learn, because I made that mistake too, and they charged me hundreds of dollars for the whole year at the end of the 30 days.
Yes.
To cancel at about day 28, because the time zone differences and things messes it up.
Oh, of course, yes. That's another consideration. Well, I hope that everyone's taken that on board. And as you said, we do have the polls open. And one of the polls that we do have open is around, if you have attended any of the 4 sessions that Melanie's run to date, if you've had a chance to have a go at implementing some of the strategies. So let us know if you've been able to tackle that. But definitely, if there's something that you've heard about and you really want to give a go, Melanie's very open and welcome to contact her to make the inquiry about how to progress the strategies specifically for your own RTO circumstance. So there's definitely been, across the 4 sessions, lots and lots of good tips and information and insights. I will always think about what I'm doing with my smartphone from now on. But I think the information is invaluable. And if you haven't been on to all of the 4 sessions, there's still the opportunity to register for the bundle and access the recording to the other 3 if you haven't been able to catch Melanie on her previous sessions. But having a look at the chat, Melanie, it looks like you've addressed all of the comments that everyone has put forward, and hopefully, Yvette, that has answered the question for you about LinkedIn Premium. If there's nothing further to come, just want to thank you all for coming on to today's session. Thank you to Melanie, the time that it takes to prepare the sessions, let alone to deliver them and then answer the questions and follow up afterwards. Very, very much appreciated. And definitely, if you are thinking about doing PD, it's our channel that supports the presenters that are supporting vet practitioners. So thank you again, everybody. And if that's the end of the questions, we'll leave it at that and hope to see you all again soon. Bye for now.